I'm Marla Ottenstein, and I hope that you're all reading April Daily News. Tell me you do? Yes. Great. So as George said, and I want to thank George for inviting me and thank you all for coming to hear me speak today. I am a professional organizer. I write 2 columns, one called Get Organized, and that runs on the first Friday of every month in the April Daily News. I also write a column called Get Organized in a Flash that runs the third Saturday. I write for eBella. I teach at FGCU, and I try to sleep once in a while. Do a lot of public speaking also. People always go, oh, I need to hire somebody like you. I am for hire. I had to throw that in, just so you know, I don't just write. But I'm going to ask everybody, please turn off your phones, your watches, your iPad Pros, your computers. And when I say turn off, I don't mean put it on silent. I really mean turn off. So I'll tell you why I'm saying this. I'm saying this because I was at a funeral service about a month ago, and somebody who happens to be a member of this group sat next to me. I almost took his phone and threw it into the Gulf of Mexico. I asked him 3 times to stop using his phone. And then he switched to using his watch. And then he switched back to his phone. And I have to tell you, it really ruined the experience. And it was a friend. It was just really hot. It was disrespectful. And it's happening more and more and more often. And we got to turn off. So today I'm going to talk about 2 things. I'm going to talk about productivity and what apps I use personally and organization. And I'm also going to talk about life the way it is now. It's taking over. You know, some of the computers are taking over. Apple has come out with come out hands-off, which I find quite invasive, and that's when you're using your phone, and then if you're within 10 feet of your computer, the next thing you know, your computer, your phone, your iPad, everything's communicating. I actually turned all that off. And then, you know, you've got screen time. Well, we're grown-ups. We don't need to know how much time we use on our devices. Just put it down, okay? Not so hard. It's really not so hard. Now, mine's on because it's not on, it's on silent, probably because I'm going to use it as examples today. I was at a film festival, and they made the announcement, please turn off your cell phones. So you would think people would turn. I can't tell you how many bright lights. And this was a screening of an international film. The woman in front of me had her phone on, and I leaned over and said, excuse me, would you turn your phone off? And she turned to me, she goes, I'm busy looking something up on the internet. You know, it's just disrespectful. It's disrespectful to the people around you. It's disrespectful to the actors if they are or not in the audience. And what's happening is it's the trickle down. The kids. Think about it. I was out for dinner one night and I saw a father and son, and it was obvious that it was, you know, Dad's night. When the father came in, he had the phone in his left hand. Dinner was served. Bowl of pasta. The son's sitting right there. The son did not have a device. The son asked his father 2 questions. Father never looked up and answered. I just found that disturbing. You know, my niece, my mother said to my niece, Sybil, I've lost your telephone number. And she turns to my mother and she goes, who's 90 and has an iPhone. She said, I sent it to you. And my mom said, well, I lost it. Sybil's sitting right where you are. She says, I'll text it to you. I lost my temper. You will write it down on a piece of paper and give it to your grandma. But anyway, so, you know, it's important we disconnect. You go to who goes to concerts still? If you go to a concert, you can't see the people playing music because everyone's got their phone, right? And they're taping it. I hate to mention it is illegal. But the point is that we need to enjoy our time with our friends, with our family. In the article I wrote about, my brother actually has his group of 5 or 6 guy friends from high school, 40 years. And they go out once a month and they sit down and they have dinner or lunch, and everybody puts their phone in the middle of the table. And the only exception is if And that announcement is made ahead of time. Okay? So when I'm with my clients, so I'm trying to explain that it's not hard to let go. When I'm with clients and they're paying me to be there for them, my phone is off. It's off. Now, the exception would be that my mother, who is 90, and sometimes forgets that, you know, we have a little rule, you can't call me between 9 and 5. But it's 9:30, Mom, 9 to 5. But, you know, the thing is, it's so important for people to focus on the moment. You can't multitask. You know, you're talking to a friend, and you know that they're on the internet. You can hear ding, 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 you know, and then you say to yourself, well, you're not really listening. We're not having a conversation. It's like going out for dinner or lunch with friends, and they sit there, and they're on their phone all the time. And I've actually gotten to a point that I've asked people, hey, you know, we're having lunch. We don't have a chance to go out. Let's put our phones away. So that's my moment of my, you know, venting. I always say to people, be in the moment. You go out for lunch with your sister or your kids, or, you know, be in that moment. Enjoy the moment. Yes, take a picture, but so many times you take pictures and you don't see what's really happening around you, right? Lead by example. This is a big one. You know, if you're on the phone all the time, I remember years ago when BlackBerrys first came out, and the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal would talk about these parents that would get up and run to the bathroom 5 times and wonder why their kids don't communicate. So lead by example. I don't have children, easy for me to say. I always tell my nephews, you know, when you decide you're going to pick up the check, then you can text and you can look at fantasy football scores. But until you decide to pick up the check, and I'm paying, no. That's a good one, right? Okay. Be a grown-up, practice control. This is so important. So I have these little things because I'm organized, but also because I really cherish my time. Okay? Think about it. How much free, even though a lot of you are retired, do we have free time? No, because you have Naples Mac Users Group, you have the fishing group, you might belong to the ski club, you might go to the newcomers group, right? You have bridge, mahjong, right? Do tennis, church groups, work, right? Work. This man works, and he's up when I am at 5 in the morning. But think about it. You know, what do they say? Retirement's kind of tough because you never have a day off. But we don't have a lot of, I'm not retired, but we don't have a lot of time. So the time we have, we need to respect. Because every moment that we spend scrolling, it's a moment that's lost. It's like tennis. You hit that ball once, same ball's never coming back at you. Okay, same with golf. So cherish your time. I get up in the morning, and as digital as I like to think I am, I read a paper newspaper. I get up in the morning, I go walk the dog. I can't wait to get my Wall Street Journal and my Naples Daily News. I actually go back in the house, and I have a little ritual. I make coffee. I talk to myself. Everybody else is there. I talk to myself all the time. And I read the paper. I just love it. It's tactile. And I have everything on an app. So there's certain things, like I'll read the summary of the day. It's called 10 Points from the Wall Street Journal. Or I'll read the, David Pierce has a great column in the Wall Street Journal, his tech column. So there's certain things I won't read in the paper because if I'm waiting someplace, I'll read. I'm in a parking lot. Now, someone's got their phone on. Sorry. Sorry, but I'm joking. It's like my mother, I went to a movie and I said, Mom, is your phone off? Yes. Mom, are you sure it's off? Yes. And then she stands up, she goes, whose phone is this? I'm like, but anyway, so I love the morning. And I spend the first 30 minutes of the morning, really, it's my time. If I have time, I throw a load in the wash also, or something in the dishwasher. But I putter, and I don't go to the computer. Now, there are exceptions. And I find that when I do go to the computer in the morning, my whole day is racing. So in the morning, this is personal, I set the pace for the day. Because when I work with people, and I have a lot of energy, but when I work with people, I have to really bring my energy level down. And I find that if I am device-free in the morning, I'm kind of mellow. Also helps if I, have a glass of wine. That was a joke, that was a joke. That was a joke. But really, I find that, if I don't look at a device for the first half hour, I can set the pace for the day. During the day, because I am with people and it's a very emotional, getting organized for many people is very emotional, I don't have my phone on. So when I get home at 5, I have a lot of emails. And I have a lot of text to answer. I always tell people, if you really need to reach me, call me. So if my editor really needs me, she's going to call me. And that's how they're going to reach me. But I try to be device-free in the morning. Also at night. I mean, you know this. All the studies say you need to be device-free at night because if you read it, and it's kind of a double-edged sword. I'm a big reader. And I love downloading books to my iPad, especially when I travel. But I like to read at night. But if I read my iPad at night, I'm wide awake. And I can't sleep. And there have been tests to show that this is a fact. So, I read paperback books or I read hardback books. And then during the day, if I have a little time, I'll read on my iPad or on my phone. But I really try to stay off the devices for the last hour and a half of the night. Plus, it's my time again. If you have a family, that's your time. If you have a husband or wife, you want to talk. Maybe not. But it is important that you start thinking in terms of respecting your time, and all of a sudden, you're going to have time. Just sort of think about that. So, now we get to my favorite part. Apps, okay? And as I said, there's going to be a Q&A afterwards, and I will stay as long as people want to talk, okay? So, I'm a professional organizer. I don't like clutter. And clutter is not just on your phone or in your closet, or in your garage, or in your storage facility, right? Clutter is everywhere, and clutter is debilitating. Clutter is this weight on your shoulders. It's not just clutter per se, it's things that you need to get done. So, for example, I know I need to do my budget. That is on every year. I know my budget, I stay within my budget, but I have never sat down, 10 years, and written it out. I don't have time to spend money lately, which is a good thing. But that's always on my mind. So it's just like some people say, I got to clean out my garage so I can put my car in the garage, right? I have to go through my pictures. You have all these things that you have to do. Everyone has a project. I have to write next month's column, and that's like a big weight. So clutter, no matter how you look at it, or projects, shall we say, that is a weight on our shoulders, right? It's something that's always on our mind. So I have a client, we were laughing, I just helped him declutter his house before he moved, and he had actually moved from 2 homes, one vacation home and one a real house in New York, moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in Naples, and it had 4 bedrooms combined into a 2-bedroom, never decluttered, except for the beds, had 2 kitchens, had everything, then he moved into a 1-bedroom apartment. And now we moved him into another 1-bedroom apartment, and he's so happy. He goes, I never thought I could live without all that stuff, but I don't miss anything, and he feels really relieved. And he jokingly said, the next thing you're going to declutter will be the number of unread emails. That's like heaven to me. I hear that. I hear you've got a closet, I hear you've got a garage. And then I said, let me see your phone. Okay, no. I said, that's crazy. Oh, look, I have a reminder. I'm supposed to be here right now. Thank you. And how many minutes will it take me to get here? Love this. But anyway, so I was so excited. He goes, don't touch it. I said, but you just said you want to get rid of all the unread. I said, that's easy. I can go in there and I can say, clear all unread messages. Doesn't that red dot bother you? He's like, no. Makes me feel good. I know people are thinking of me. Oh. Okay, well, thinking of me, you got this catalog company, this catalog company, this catalog company, oh, Wayfair, you get 10% here, Crate and Barrel, free shipping yesterday, but today we're giving you 5% off, and if you get a credit card, we'll give you another 10% off. It's crazy. So personally, I see that red dot and it makes me crazy. So, I go through, who here gets the Wall Street Journal? Okay, so that little column where they have in the Wall Street Journal magazine what's on your phone, and it shows you, and I did a column like that in Naples Daily News, and the question was, how many unread messages do you have? I'm like, none. Because that red dot makes me crazy. And then if there's always one appearing, how there's one appearing, you just can't get rid of it. So I try to get rid of them. But another thing I did is, I'm on a tennis team and they all text back and forth. Want to confirm tonight tennis? 12 people. I'm in, I'm not. Ding, 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 ding. And I actually called up Kathy and I said, take me off the list. So you can set boundaries, okay? And it's very important to set boundaries. I don't really know what's going on with the rest of the team. I don't care. I just know that every Tuesday at 6 o'clock I play tennis. Period. I'm there. I don't need to be reminded. But the dinging was making me crazy. And then the simplest thing happened. Someone said, you can change the tone of your text also to something that's less invasive. So she said, try bamboo. And it's just a nice little tone that doesn't bother me. You don't even hear it. Sometimes, a lot of times I don't hear it. But we can set boundaries, and the more time we have, the more productive we're going to be, the more time we're going to have for golf, tennis, grandkids, church, for the things for doing nothing. Wouldn't that be great to wake up in the morning and do nothing? It's kind of a nice thing. I always dream of Sunday morning, the dog's not waking me up. It's not going to happen. She's going to outlive me just for spite. I kid you not. So think of your phone as a desktop, okay? Think of it as a desktop. So we all have MacBook Pros or MacBook Air, and you're at home and you look at all the little squares on your desktop. It makes me crazy. Does it make you all crazy? Am I the only person? Okay. It makes my graphic artist crazy because I sent him a picture of my desktop one day as a joke, and he wrote back, he goes, you're supposed to be organized. So I know exactly what it is, because I have folders there, things I can reach. But on my phone, I like to have it relatively clear. Sometimes it doesn't recognize your face. You know that? And it doesn't recognize your face after you have eye drops put in. Did you ever know that? Yeah, when you go to the eye doctor the next time and they put drops in, hours and it does not recognize you. Because I guess they dilate your eyes or whatever. So a lot of people talk about how many apps they have. I know somebody who said that he has 476 apps. That must be boring. Bye. He's got 476 apps, and how long it took to get. Sorry, they're going to miss the good part when I sing, when I dance. But anyway, so he was bragging how many apps he has. And I said, well, do you use them? Oh, I use them all. So I started thinking about what apps do I use? And I started realizing that for a while, I was just buying apps. I love photography, so I was buying photo apps. And then I realized I'm not using half the photo apps, right? We want to do something interesting. So I wanted to narrow things down. And another way that I learned to narrow things down is I went from an iPhone 7 Plus that had 128 gigs, and I bought the new Manna from Heaven. I love this. Never thought I would love an inanimate object. But I decided, am I going to get 64 gigabytes or 256? Because there was a big jump. And I said, well, I'm going to get 64, and I'll just really take control of my life and only use the apps that make me efficient. Okay? And that are simple for me. So I like to say, keep it simple, stupid, right? I also like to say, and women, you will appreciate this, it's quality, not quantity. You might have 100 pairs of shoes, and I'm sorry, if only 3 or 4 are comfortable, what are you holding on to the other 97 for? Right? I thought about that this morning when I was practicing. But and somebody thought I was a librarian. But generally, I'm not letting you off the hook either, okay? Hats, never mind, okay? If you don't like the way a hat looks, or if it's kind of cruddy around, the brim, and you only wear 3 of your 50 hats, you're only wearing 3 of your 50 hats. So same thing with hats. If you're not using all your hats, at least offload them. Okay, you can delete the app, but it's there forever. That would be something I would love to learn, how to actually delete the app forever. I know there's a way. But, you have an app, be it that you pay for it, you don't pay it. It's yours forever. Forever. Long time. As long as my dog's going to last. Forever. But really, I narrowed down to the things that I use. It's sort of like clothing. Paperwork. Phone clutter is the same. You want to have the pants that you wear. You want to have the apps that you wear. So, people want to know, what do I use? SIRI. I don't want to say it. I hate to admit it, she's my friend. Don't say it. I love her, okay? So I'm at tennis court Tuesday night, and I'm playing, we do the switch, and there's something on my mind. There's always something on my mind. So we have 26 seconds between the switch over. SIRI, remind me to do this. And all of my friends on the court, they know that I'm going to do this like 3 times in a set, and they laugh at me, but then I can play better because I'm not thinking about it, and I talk to her, and I say, remind me to do this. So someone said, well, how many reminders do you have? Well, at the end of the day, I may have 45 reminders. But before I go to bed, I have 30. 30 is my limit. It's sort of like flagged items in your computer. Anybody use flags? How many flags do you have? Flags. How many things do you have flagged? 20, okay.
450.
Natalie, what do you flag?
You better set up an appointment immediately.
Yes. Who else uses flags? How many do you have?
About 150.
Who else?
About 150.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask a question. What do you have, what kind of things do you remind yourself? What do you have on reminders? I'm not pointing fingers, and I'm going to tell you what I do to simplify it.
Something I want to remind you.
Okay, so is it something you can revisit, you can bookmark?
Email, so it's more like information.
When was the last time you went through these emails? It's sort of like magazines. I always say to people at the end of the month, my clients at the end of the month, if you haven't read a magazine, it goes, you've heard me say this before. Yeah, the end of the month, get rid of whatever magazines you have not read. Okay? What kind of things do you have on your...
Mostly, Nmug stuff.
Okay, so anything that you can get rid of? Okay, so I'll give you an example, okay? And you've got notes and you've got reminders, okay? So I'm going to tell you how I use it, and it helps me. So I always say SIRI, remind me to call George and to get a final number. SRII, remind me to call Tony about Wednesday morning tennis. And sometimes when people text you or they call and they leave a voicemail, I don't want to forget to call that person, and sometimes I do. So I'll say, hey, SIRI, remind me to call Jacqueline. So it's sort of like my reminder that someone called me. When I get home, that's when I send George an email, how many people. I send the terraces in Bonita, how many people are coming. I sent Tony an email, put me on for Wednesday morning, not this Wednesday. But I go down my list, okay? So I use reminders for short-term things. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't a few long-terms. So I'm just going to kind of tell you what's on my reminders now, and then we'll go back to flags. Reminders. All right, so I came up with an idea for protecting your clothes. You know how people put things in plastic and you think you're protecting your clothes? You're not. Plastic is a horrible thing. Plastic makes your clothes turn musty and moldy. But people wear black and they want to protect the shoulders. So I said, whoa, I'm going to take an old pillowcase. I'm going to cut a hole in the top. I'm going to cut it to about this length. So I probably could remove that. In fact, I'm going to remove it because I remember that all the time, okay? But it was something I had thought about and didn't want to forget. I had a client say to me, I'm connected to my clothes. So that's something that I want to use in an upcoming story. So I don't want to lose that. You're going to like this one. I was signing all the papers for my will. These are weird things that people say. I sign all the stuff for my will, and my lawyer says, do you want to write your own obit? I go, probably, because I'm such a control freak. And of course it would be humorous. So he says, well, what are you going to say? And I said, oh, just say she was a good person, gave from her heart, no strings attached, was a good friend, a good daughter, sister, and lived her life with dignity. Bye-bye. He says, that's perfect. I said, it's here. That's my own bit. But that's me. Because you know what I'm dead, I'm gone, who cares? But it just kind of was something, and he looked at me and goes, better write that down. So I actually said, Siri, remind me. But every once in a while when I go through my 30 or so, 45 at the end of the day, I look at it and I have a smile, okay?
But Marla, was that in your notes?
That's it, no, that's in my reminders. So we have three things. We've got flag, reminders, and notes, okay? So I would say that reminders, one of my top favorite apps. And I use it for short-term things, okay? So here's one. I want to remember to post a 10% discount to first responders and veterans. So if anybody in here is a veteran or a first responder and you call me, you will get a 10% discount, just to let you know. But I keep forgetting to do that. That's a short term because all I have to do is sit down, go into WordPress and add it. You know, it's just when am I going to find the time? So call BMW, set up an appointment. Now that's short term because the thing keeps saying service, service, service. So I know I need to do that. So that is short term. And I use it as a notepad, but it's short-term notepad, okay? Notes are different. Notes I use for long-term projects. So you're kind of saying, oh, like, what's the difference? Or for instructions, things I need to remember. So when I first went into being an Apple user, I went cold turkey from Android and PC, and I never looked back. Bye, thank you. But I use notes for things I couldn't remember how to do. You know, when your Wi-Fi, when your iPad couldn't connect, and now that we have fiber optics, it's never the same, George. But I use notes. Let me go to my notes. Notes are for long-term things. So, for example, in my notes, I have a list of the guys I play tennis with Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Okay, just because they're not contacts worthy. There are too many of them. So I don't put them in my contacts. But what I did was I took the email someone sent me. Instead of flagging the email, I actually cut and paste the list of the guys, and I put it in, and this is the beauty of it, I put it in my notes, and automatically their telephone numbers become underlined. So if I need to call Tony, I can just push his telephone number so I can call or cancel. So it's kind of dual purpose. And I'm not scrolling through 150 or 45 flag items, okay? Another thing I do is I have my schedule for the Naples Daily News in here. So it's something I always have to reference, what column is running when my deadlines are. I have a list of podcasts. People say, oh, I love this podcast. By the way, who here listens to Alec Baldwin? Here's the thing. Is he brilliant?
It's tough to refer to Alec Baldwin as brilliant in Naples, Florida.
Thank you. But you know, I just think he's great and he's right and he's, you know. But if someone tells me about a podcast, you know, I'll put it in my notes or a book. I'm a big reader, so I have my book list here. and I can cut and paste, and I can put it into Cloud Library and see if they've gotten the book. So I try to use my notes as a way to cut and paste, and then it saves me a step, rather than going into Kindle and having to say, whatever book, okay, by such and such. I can just cut and paste it and put it in there. It's a step. Now, some people might find that extra step laborious. For me, it works, all right? So I use notes for long-term things. I do cellular instructions for overseas. I always get confused about cellular overseas. So I put the instructions in here. You know, how to turn everything off. You're roaming, everything else. So I use notes for some of the things that you might normally flag. Like I would normally flag the email that came from Joe telling me that Tony is the March contact, and here's the whole list of the guys I got to call for tennis, okay? So that's how I used this, okay? Or some little instructions. Just trouble connecting to the Wi-Fi. So I wrote that in my house because I always had trouble. So I use notes for lists mainly. And I try to clear them out. As far as things that are flagged, at home on my computer, things that are flagged are in color, right? But on your phone, they're yellow. They're all yellow. So for me, flagging some things are hard. What I tend to do is just mark it as unread. So if my editor sends me a note and it's not urgent, and I open it and read it, I'll just mark it as unread. So when I get home, I can respond. When I'm having a glass of wine, I can use a full keyboard. Because I don't know about you guys, but I can't do this. You know, this thing that kids do with thumbs, I can't do it. So another app I use that I love is Fantastical 2. Have you all ever heard of Fantastical 2? Okay, I love it. Now, years ago, there was, I don't know, I got a free sample, and I love it. And it's color-coded. I showed Deborah. It's color-coded. So for me, pink means work, dark or baby blue means birthday or anniversary, turquoise, Mexican color, means personal, green means Naples Daily News, and you can set it up any way you want, okay? And it is integrated. It's an Apple-approved app. It's now $50. But I got it for free, and I'm like so happy. But it's now integrated with your Apple computer. I'm sorry, your Apple calendar. On your. Someone's alarm's going off. You know, isn't it interesting? I asked everybody to turn their devices off. Okay, alarm's up.
I take Bill.
Okay, all right, sorry, thank you. It's just, it's so hard, because now I gotta get back into mine. Okay, so Fantastical. It's color-coded. Now, the reason why I like Fantastical, for me, and it's gonna be hard to see on here, but what I like is not only is it color-coded, but when you look at it, and it's hard, when you look at it, it has a small calendar at the top, and then it has your day at the bottom. And then if I turn it sideways, it gives me my week. Now, for me, and it's all color-coded.
How is that different than having a calendar, Apple calendar?
The Apple calendar I find hard to read because it's all in light gray. And for me, it's just so hard for me to read, and I just like the layout of this. And when I first went from using a handheld diary, and that was cold turkey, that was hard. But when I first went and I tried the Apple calendar, I couldn't see it. Okay. So for me, this works, and I'm a very visual person, so I love colors. Afterward, I can show it to you. Okay. To me, it's worth it. Now, what I did do is I had to turn off Apple notifications for birthdays and holidays, because otherwise I was having double birthdays.
For $50, does it do this stuff on your to-do list for you?
No, but it will ask me if I put a reminder in, it'll do it by the time, but it does the same thing with Apple. I wish it would do the stuff on my to-do list, but then again, I'm such a control freak, I could probably tell it how to do it. But, so this works for me, and this makes me productive. And how does it make me productive? Because I actually block time for myself. Something I started to do recently. Now, season's different, but I'm going on a vacation at the end of March. I'm going hiking in Patagonia. And I know that the night before every vacation, as organized as I am, I sit there, it's 10 o'clock and I'm packing my bag. So I decided this year, I'm going to take the day off before I go on vacation. I've worked really hard, I deserve it. I actually put it in my calendar. So that's something you can do. If you want to go and have lunch with a friend or with your husband, you want to go boating or fly fishing. So productivity is not just business or not just meetings, it's also your time. I'm a real big proponent of having time on your own. And I mean, I stick to that. So that's mine. The only time I don't is I try to have Friday mornings open, but during season, you know, that goes out the window. But I do use the calendar, and I actually mark it with my time, okay? So that's taking calendar, like science, one step further, because most people would never think of doing that. Another thing I do with the calendar is because I don't know if I don't have to technically track my miles, but God forbid the IRS ever ask me for my mileage, I put my appointments in, and I put my appointments in their address. So and at the end of the month, I actually make a PDF of my calendar, and it's in color, and it's instead of saving paper, so I have a PDF of my calendar, and then I have, you know, you can, well, I don't know now with the new tax laws, but you used to be able to take mileage for charitable events that you were working on, and also for doctor's appointments. I have a funny feeling that's gone away. But if ever, God forbid, I was audited, I would just pull up my PDF, and I know what the miles are because I have all the addresses and I know who I went to see. So I've taken it one step further, but I need to do that for another 7 years. Now, little notes. Time-saving apps. Everybody uses them, right? Do you all use Evernote and all that kind of stuff? I know. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. I don't like them. Once again, to me, they're invasive. And I really don't want my devices to take over my life. So I thought I was the only person who didn't use them. But I just use what I got. I mean, there are certain things I use. I got rid of any app I don't use. So, for example, as I said, reading, okay? So I've got Cloud Library, which gives you access to the library, Audible, iBooks for PDFs, Kindle, and Bookshelf. And I put it all in one little thing that says books. With photos, anybody here use Waterlog? Oh, isn't that great? That was another one I got for free. Now it's $3.99. Waterlog, write this down. This is not a time saver, but it's a great app. You take any picture and it makes it into a watercolor. And it's really, really a cool app. But another thing that I do for me that I find is something for productivity is I am in my car and I'm hands-free. So if I have to make a call, I ask SIRI to call George, you know, specifically mobile, and then I just hit speaker. But mainly I'm on Audible books, okay, or on my podcast. And I find that the 20 minutes, people always say, but you're only driving 20 minutes, how can you listen to a book? It's just so relaxing, and I know that when I get to where, you know, people are always busy, always in motion, and they're always busy. But they're busy talking about how busy they are, right? There was a great article in the Wall Street Journal a year ago, and I loved it. It said, "You're not that busy, you're rude." I love it. Look it up. It's hysterical. And it talks about people who always talk about how busy they are. So I actually took that to heart. So when people call, like friends, they'll say, "You're probably too busy to go out for lunch." And I always say, "You know what? I'm really busy. It's season, but I'm never." And then I follow it. I'm never too busy to see friends, but we got to do it after 5 or on a Sunday. But I take that busy and I make it into, yes, I'm busy, but I'm not too busy for friends. Because all of a sudden, you know, that minute you lose, you're going to lose that friendship. You're going to lose the time that you can sit down and have lunch with a girlfriend or with your husband or wife or whatever. So for me, audible books and podcasts, they make me more efficient because it slows me down. So a lot of times when you rush, you're so busy that you kind of like multitasking. Have you ever noticed sometimes when you multitask, you have so much going on, right? This is just me. No. But sometimes when I'm doing 3 or 4 things at once, I really need to stop so I can focus on one thing. When I'm on deadline, I have to write 1 column. You can't be focusing on 2 or 3 things. So I always say that multitasking is not such a great thing, you know? When I go and I have a pedicure, I sit there, and the guy, he said to me one day, he goes, Marla, you never are on your phone. You just sit here. I said, yeah, back massager going, I'm a happy camper. I'm there for an hour. I mean, this is something I do. I treat myself to that hour. The back massager is so happy. Camera, another, for me, camera is, makes me more efficient. I can't remember something, I need to buy something at the grocery store, take a picture of it. Don't you all do that? Okay, I mean, always take pictures, and then I look at them and go, oh God, that's what I need. But I also, I use my camera a lot, but I also make a point of trying to clear out my pictures. Isn't that the hardest thing to find the time? But clutter again, once again, it's clutter. And videos, I don't have any videos. Check My Trip. If you travel, this is going to make you a really great traveler. It's a great app called Check My Trip. American Airlines is in it. What you do is you just put in all your travel information and it reminds you, and if a flight's running late, it tells you. And I find that it's the best travel app, especially for overseas. It's amazing. If the date has changed, I find out about it on this app before I find out about it on the little switchy thing, whatever that thing is called. What is that thing called in the airport? The thing that goes, it's a machine of some sort.
Board.
Yeah, but there's got to be a name for it. I'm giving you this assignment. Find out what the name of it is. So anyway, so a big thing though is really, you what? Yeah, but it's got a name. I don't know. It's got a name. But anyway, so the big thing is as far as apps, pick the apps that work for you. Okay? Or if you get an app and it doesn't work for you, offload it or delete it completely. You can always get it back. But sometimes when you're looking for a picture and, all right, Deborah, and you can't find it. No, I wasn't looking at you. But sometimes you're going like this and you're scrolling, just like when you're scrolling through your flags, and you can't find it. Every time I look at it, it's going. So photos, try to clear them out a little bit, or make albums. Okay, but I try to get the photos on my phone, off my phone, if it's a business, for my clients. I mean, enough before and after pictures, right? But I really have narrowed down, and for me, getting a phone that only had 64 gigabytes, knowing that I'd never use it, but it has helped me get rid of things I'm not using. And you all know how to look that up, right? You go to general phone usage, general phone, or general about general, whatever. You know how to find it. And you can look at them, they're all listed there, and you're going to find things you never use. Yeah, you might even find an airline that's not even in business anymore. So use the apps that work for you. Use the apps that you find make you more efficient. I find the calendar, reminders, notes, Siri. Also love, just reminding myself, I also love face recognition. What I like about that is, especially for a credit card, the face recognition, I can get in, I can see a snapshot of what I'm, my credit, what I've spent or what I've returned. And it's right there. I don't have to sit there and punch in. We're not even going to talk about passwords today, because I'm still trying to find the perfect. So that's what I do to be efficient. But a big part of being efficient and productive for me is setting aside time for me.
I thought so.
Did I say S-I? I must have said S-I-R-I. I must have. I wasn't talking to you. I wasn't talking to you. She's in my head. But a big thing for me for being efficient and productive and for being a good person is to set aside time to put down the phone, to put it away. Sometimes I don't even want to listen to audible books, but I find the time I always have it in my car because it's for emergencies, but when I'm walking, I leave it at home. You know, I don't take it everywhere. When I sleep, it is in another room. I use the alarm, but it's in another room. And it's important to me not to have that connection, you know? And I'm just trying to encourage people to do the same because conversation, like to encourage the conversation, it's such an important, there's a lost art. Speaking to somebody, remember the days you used to go to see a Broadway show or go to the movies and you come out of the movies, I'm going to close with this, come out of the movies and you turn to your date. Oh, by the way, never, ever, ever, ever use a phone on a date, please. That's like, he's off the list if he uses a phone. But you come out of a movie and you talk to the person about the movie. It's a great feeling, right? What is the first thing you do now when you come out of a movie? See who called. And as I said, we're not that important. We're not that busy. So do that as a test. So do it as a test. I'm going to challenge you guys that the next time you go to a movie, don't turn your phone on immediately. And talk to the person next to you. I go to the film festival in Palm Springs. And it's so interesting because we're all real big film buffs. And out there, nobody turns their phone on afterwards. And it's such, I think that's what I really love about that film festival, is we talk about the films. And this year there were 285 films, so there's a lot to talk about. But we actually talked about films, or where are you from, and it was such a great thing. And it wasn't just me, there were so many people not using their phones. And it was just a great feeling. So, how to do? Questions, please.
The biggest thing to me is photos. Okay, so you're out to dinner with somebody and you want to show a picture. I have a favorites album, but other people with me do not.
So I know it's funny you should say, because I just started doing that.
And they're scrolling through 5,000 pictures.
Yeah, but all of a sudden, then you got to limit your favorites album because
I know.
right?
Well, I do, but
Okay.
I mean, do you have any other ideas for that?
No, because that's, I like to keep it simple. So if I need a picture of something, I do that also. I do have, it's funny, one year I got a call from the paper, I was on vacation, and they could not pull up my headshot. And I'm like, oh God, well, I don't know where to find it. And I actually called a friend of mine, I said, it's not, I can't find it. And now I have it now I have it actually in a album that says headshots on my phone. But I don't know how he did it, but he went to Facebook and he extracted the picture and they used it temporarily. But now I know I need that. But I have a favorites folder, but then if there's a folder like before the hurricane, pictures of my condo. So I actually have a separate album that says condo contents. So if it's really important, kind of more important than being a favorite, it has its own category. But that's what works. You know, so much about Mac products, it's what works for you, but then you also share with people. Yes, sir?
I have two comments. Number one, you know...
You like my dress, right?
Tremendous. Is it coming my size? Using a cell phone at the theater is not just distracting for the audience members, it's potentially dangerous for the performers.
Oh, yeah, because...
Especially if it's a musical.
Thank you for saying that, because they get blinded by that light. Thank you for mentioning that.
And the second comment I have is, you mentioned that you listen to audiobooks piecemeal, which I do also. Frequently go to the library to tutor, and so I'll listen for half an hour. But I found it difficult to listen to an audiobook that way that was fictional. It's easier for me if it's non-fictional. Do you have that experience or not?
No, you know what, I'm a real, okay, so I read a lot. I always have a book on my iPad, a book on my a real book and I have the Audible book. And if you were to say to me, what are you reading right now? I will tell you, I do not. I'm reading a really long book. I'm listening to a really long book. And I didn't realize it was 17 hours. I'm getting bored, but I only have 6 hours left. But I don't know the name. But I listen to it, as I said, piecemeal. Sometimes when I'm walking, I will take my phone, or sometimes if I'm working on a menial project at home, if I'm working on stuffing stuff, envelopes or whatever, I'll have it on. But I never really thought about it, fiction or nonfiction.
I guess what I'm saying is that, like, I listened to a Grisham novel on the phone, and I found myself forgetting who characters were, and I had to rewind.
Yeah, but with Grisham, it doesn't matter, because it's the same character in every book, right? He's got that formula down pat all the way to the bank. I think that sometimes, maybe that's why I listen to podcasts on occasion, because I know it's 45 minutes, so when I go to visit my mom over in Boca Raton, I'll be able to get 2 podcasts in, 45 minutes each. So, I kind of time it. We only have 2, yes?
An interesting point on audiobooks. I think it helps if you have one that the author is reading it. David McCullough does that. Even Springsteen's book, he does it himself.
I heard it was great.
And it really makes a big difference if you can get that.
All right, you know what? I have a favorite book. And half the time I can't remember them, and you're going to all laugh at me, but it really is a favorite book, and I've listened to it 2 or 3 times. I have 3 favorite books. But this one was Rob Lowe, and Love Life or Love Letter or something.
My Life.
My Life. He's brilliant, great reader, great voice, great book. Yes, he touches on his addictions, but not so much. He talks about, he was a child actor. He's actually worked every day since he was 12 years old. And I found it fascinating. It was a great voice. And he says, I remember him saying, I'm never going to be like, De Niro. I'm not going to get an Oscar. I'm a really good, character actor. I'm the Parks and Rec guy. I'm, whatever shows he's been in. He says, and I have been working my entire life, and I have a life. But, so that was a voice, just like you said. I think sometimes it's interesting if the author reads it. Makes it very personal. Does everybody here listen to audible books, or show of hands? Love them. Yeah, just curious. I love them. They just, and if you are a subscriber to the Wall Street Journal, they had a 6-month period where you get, I think they're still doing it, where you get 2 books a month, and they go on a book shout. But, yeah. And if you're Amazon Prime, did you know they have audible books? Just found this out from my sister. Any other questions? I'm worried about the flags. I got to tell you, it's going to make me not sleep tonight. So I challenge you to go home and to actually look at the things that are flagged. And I have a client who, she's a mother. She's got growing kids, and she's got lots and lots and lots of kid stuff. And she laughed. She goes, crack the whip on me. Tell me I have to get rid of something. And we have a limit of 30 flags. And she sticks to it. She's really good about it. And sometimes she'll be over, but like when her kids were getting bar and bat mitzvah, she went over. I said, well, you're allowed. But in general, I think it's just that red dot looking at me. Or the yellow dot. So see what, I bet you anything if you go home you can get rid of 50 of them. I bet you. Yes, and 450. Just don't say you're going to clean your whole closet or you're going to clean your whole garage. Just talk about one shelf. So let's maybe get rid of 50. Yes?
I wanted to ask you if you've encountered any hoarders and how you motivate them.
I, as a rule, do not work with hoarders, and although I have on 2 occasions. And the reason why is I'm not qualified. There is somebody in Fort Myers, and she's a friend of mine, and she actually works as part of the hoarding task force. Hoarding is a mental disorder, and it shouldn't be taken lightly. And if someone who is not qualified, who works with somebody who has hoarding disorder, it is debilitating. You could really spiral. Now, that being said, when my friend, her name is Roxy Hamilton, and that is her specialty, she's in Fort Myers, when she was deployed to Kuwait, I had a situation where someone I knew was a hoarder, because I can ask questions, I know, and I actually emailed Roxy saying, I really don't want to take this job, and she said, if anybody is qualified, you can do it, just be prepared. And it was really, really, really a rough, because you know that that person's not going to change their mind. I say that, but I also recently had another experience with somebody who was borderline, but he also was at a point in his life he was reaching out, and it's a miracle. It is a miracle, and he has actually changed his life, and it's just unbelievable. So I feel very satisfied, and I feel like in fact, his friend came and saw me. His friend looked at me and said, you saved his life. But that doesn't happen often. I mean, that's 1 out of 1,000. But I ask questions when someone calls, and most of the time I ask the right questions. But I'm not qualified, and it would be like hiring somebody who's not an accountant who says, oh, I do my own tax returns, I can do yours. Right? Yes, sir.
I don't know if other people do this. On emails, I have a lot of folders and subfolders. And when I have something interesting, or a topic, or an organization, I use the subfolders to move the email over there. Am I a hoarder?
No! That's very funny. That's very funny. You know what's funny, because I tried all those subfolder things, and it was just overpowering to me, because I spent more time trying to figure out. So here's a good example. I write contracts I'm licensed, I'm insured, I'm a member, I'm highly insured. Everything I do is confidential, which is important. I'm a member of the National Association of, I take what of professional organizers. Obviously, I take what I do very seriously. So I write contracts because my insurance company requires that I have a contract for every client. So I'm always looking for a particular, because it's a template, but sometimes I can't find it. So I'm scrolling like you're scrolling for the pictures, right? So I called my web guy up in Fort Myers, Tom Messina. I go, I cannot find this contract. I have every contract, a Word document and a PDF. It's a PDF I can send to my client. He goes, well, how are you saving them? I go, alphabetically. He says, how long have you been in business? 10.5 years. He said, how many contracts have you written? I said, hundreds. So he said, right. He says, you are probably the most disorganized person I know. But that's always our joke. So now he said to me, and he really saved my life, he said, alphabetically. He said, because usually you remember their name. He said, you can decide if you're going to do alphabetically last name or first name. So now it says contracts, and then the next header over it says A, B, C, all the way down. So it made it a little bit easier. So now I'm doing that with everything. So when I do PowerPoints, usually I have a big PowerPoint, but I'll say 2017, 2018, 2019, and I have different PowerPoints. I teach at FGCU, so I have different PowerPoints I've done, and it'll say 2017, and then it'll go over, it'll say Naples Trust, or Bank America, and then you go to 2019, and it breaks it down. So it's easier, that little simple tweak. So back to your hoarding and the subfolders, I tried it in mail, I got really confused. I admit I got totally confused, so I like to keep it simple. So you're not a hoarder though.
You're doing that in documents. You're
In
contracts.
documents, yes.
Mail.
Not in mail, I'm just doing it in documents.
So yeah, I use a lot of subfolders, and I find it very much an organizational tool. Now, here's an example.
And I'm listening, I'm gonna have a sip of water, go ahead.
Here's an example of where I flag something and I don't get rid of the flag.
Okay.
I have an Apple folder. So every time I buy something on iTunes, every time I buy any app, it goes automatically, when I hit the email, it goes right into that
I
Apple
show you your
folder.
invoice.
okay? But if I go out and buy a new phone today, I flag it and then put it in the folder. Because there's hundreds of items in that Apple folder, and if I'm scrolling through looking for something important, I know that I would have flagged it. And the things that would be important would like be buying a new watch or the warranty on my phone, so on. So that's an example where I would keep a flag for a long time.
No, that's a great idea, because now you're gonna laugh. I'm pretty much all paper free, but I have my invoices for my Apple in my emails, but I actually have hard copies of them too. Don't ask me why, but there's just certain things. I have a small folder, maybe 20 things are in it at home, of big purchases that I just have.
There's only one thing I have in my paper folder that I have to have in paper, and that's the title of my car.
In your house. Did you know, now most people don't know this.
The house I still have a mortgage on, so I don't have the title.
Oh, okay. But no, and also just to give you a hint, insurance, even though you have an app on your home, thank you so much, even though you have an app on your phone for your homeowners, living in Florida, print out your policies, because if the cellular lines are down and you need access, let's hope you don't, you need access to your insurance, you gotta have it there. It's really important to have it paper. Yeah, but that's something I always tell people to have a hard copy of. Yes?
I was just going to say, when I got a new computer in November 2014, I decided to start reorganizing everything on it. And everybody has to have their own method. But I was also trying to align the organization of my email folders with the documents organization. So for example, with taxes, under financial, having the banks and the credit cards and each one by year and so on. Of course, it's not always aligned, so then, but I found that kind of helped.
Again, everyone has my big thing is keeping it really simple. Yes?
Just like to mention a software called Keybring. It's where you take a picture of your credit card or your AAA card or your driver's license. It's all in the phone. I don't know how many times, I don't want to carry all those cards, but how many times I walk in and not expecting to have to deliver that information. Oh, well, I've got it. It's on this software called Keybring.
But also, I have a question though. Most of the time, if you give them, like if I go to Office Depot and they ask for that, I just give them my telephone number and they pull up my information. Yeah. Most of them, so I have them all on one telephone. Like if I go, Office Depot's over there.
What about Wallet on your phone?
Well, I only use that for credit cards where I'm going to purchase something.
Yes, sir.
Dropbox is another good.
Yeah, and that really is a time saver. I use it for larger documents back and forth, like with my accountant and the paper we use it. That is a good one. Thank you.
I haven't heard Spotlight mentioned, and Spotlight for me is
No Spotlight.
Pardon?
Tell me about Spotlight. How many apps are there out there, by the way?
Spotlight is a medical app.
Search.
It's on the left side.
Oh, that's Spotlight. Okay, yeah. I'm thinking, yeah.
Okay. And when I created on when I include 5 or 6 keywords, I make the title long enough that no matter what happens,
One of those words is going to pop up.
one of those words will pop up. And it's so simple.
Now, one last thing I want to show you all before I leave you. I meant to tell you this, sorry. Don't laugh. Even though I have my notes and I have my reminders and I have my calendar and they're all integrated, I have a to-do list, a paper to-do list. Every day. Yep, every day. So my next thing now is at 1 o'clock, I have to go measure furniture for a client. And then when I go home, I have to do a PowerPoint for FGCU, and then I got to call my handyman. But I actually have a paper to-do list. I know it sounds crazy, but be it that it's a paper to-do list or something that you put in your phone, you need a to-do list every day. That's something I really turn. And for me, paper works.
So you use paper for what you need to do today?
Yeah, and I also know I'm not crazy, so if I don't get, if something has to be done today, I will highlight it. But I'm also to a point in my life that if it doesn't get done today, it'll get done tomorrow.
Well, thank you, Marla.